Fall camps are opening all across the country. We've actually got things to talk about. Not games yet, but we got things to talk about. And we do Camp Intel Whispers. One of the benefits is we have a very, very deep network of folks who cover these teams. We also get to talk to folks behind the scenes. So stuff is starting to happen. And I try and deliver as much as I possibly can, as much as we're cleared to talk about. I try and give it to you on these shows in August. So let's get down to business. Down at Miami, they've already opened fall camp. Now, obviously, programs like Miami, bringing in big true freshman classes where they're counting on a lot of those guys to start. We'll be watching a bunch of those kids. Also the transfer portal class, and that goes for a lot of teams. We'll be watching a bunch of those kids. But Leonard Taylor is one who's been there a while. Leonard Taylor, former five-star guy, they landed him a couple of classes ago. You could call this a contract year for Leonard Taylor if you're talking about the future NFL prospects. 6'3", 305. He looks really good by all accounts down there. Should be a presence, a force, whatever words you want to use. But we talked about a guy the other day named Elijah Arroyo, who kind of started to burst onto the scene in 2021 before he got injured. And Elijah Arroyo at tight end, there are people in the Miami program who think he may be pound for pound the best athlete on the team. And that's one that I'm watching very, very closely. But there's a third name that we have not mentioned on the show yet. And I have it on pretty good authority that already through one practice, he's standing out down there. And that's Jadias Richards, who came there by way of Vanderbilt, right in our backyard. He was a corner, and he's a former four-star safety from West Monroe. 6'2", 197. He transferred, but his name didn't get near the recognition that a lot of other more high-profile transfers got. They knew they hit a home run when they got him, or at least they thought they did. Through, granted, one practice down there, they feel really good. Feel really good that they hit on him. And that's not surprising anyone down there. I think it'll surprise some folks in the ACC. Ray Davis, the running back from Vandy that went up to Kentucky, I think we'll hear a lot of good things about him. But Richards, the corner from Vandy, now down there, keep an eye on him. Next up, I was wondering why I had this Post-it in my hand. It's because of who I'm about to talk about. Out in Utah, all eyes are on producer Jesse. And by producer Jesse, I mean his twin, Cam Rising. Starting quarterback out there. Had surgery like 8 or 9 months ago, I think it will be by the time they kick off in week 1. So here's the good news. I guess you could call it good news that Kyle Whittingham says things are on schedule. But we're opening fall camp out there, and he is doing mechanics-related things. He's doing footwork. He can throw, but there is no sudden movement. It's just never language I like used about my quarterback when we're opening fall camp. Certainly no contact, and that's normal. Is he going to be able to play? This is not a team that eases into their season. Utah plays Florida right out of the gate on a Thursday night, no less, to start the season. And then they go to Baylor the next week, and I think, there it is, they've also got UCLA in week 4, and they go to Oregon State in week 5 before their bye week. So there are 4 very losable games and winnable games. Your quarterback position is largely going to determine the outcome of 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of those. And if it's not Cam Rising, or if you only have like 75 or 80% of him, and that's not good enough to win, what do you know about Brandon Rose? I think Utah fans know about him. He's a redshirt freshman, 19 of 24, 233 yards and a touchdown in the spring game. However much you want to quantify and value spring game statistics, man, as of right now, I'm going to take Kyle Whittingham at his word, but let's monitor this closely. This is going to impact Florida. It's obviously going to impact Utah, but it impacts Florida because they play him in week 1. You've got Baylor playing him in week 2. You get into Pac-12 play. That could be one of the most critical dominoes out there early on. What about USC? Back in spring, to stay on the West Coast for a second, USC had issues practicing because they didn't have enough defensive depth. Last year, they had problems playing because they didn't have enough defensive depth. And that's not me trying to be funny. That is an accurate representation of USC football so far. Now, that's not hating on Lincoln Riley. He played with what he could play with last year, and this spring, ditto. Well, they tried to attack it in the transfer portal. They went and got players like Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander from Georgia, who played, I think, in 12 games last year, a former high 4-star, 5-star guy, depending on where you looked. Point being, he is going to be counted on to be a critical part of their success or failure up front defensively. Well, he's not practicing right now. Lincoln Riley revealed that he had a soft tissue injury, and so he's rolling around in a scooter out there based on what I've heard so far, and they've only had a couple of practices, obviously. But keep an eye on that. And then also, there are a lot of folks around USC who think both of their offensive guards who start will be transfers. One of them from Washington State, one of them from Wyoming. So lines of scrimmage. I know we got Caleb Williams out there. I know we got like 1 million receivers every year, but Pregnon is the kid, one of the kids I'm talking about. Kingston's the other kid. Those two transferred in, and they will be getting repetitions with the ones at each guard position, may both start for USC. So that transfer portal class for USC going to be integral, which it always figured to be. What about Nebraska? Nebraska's open fall camp. Another cycle, it seems, of Eric Gilbert promise. I'm not going to call it hype, but Eric Gilbert, who was a 5-star tight end once upon a time and was originally, how did this go? So he was committed to LSU. Then which order did this go in, Jesse? He was at Georgia, but he was committed to Florida for like 5 minutes. Any which way, that's the way it happened. Now he's at Nebraska. That's what I want you to know. So he's racking up like half a dozen destinations in college. These aren't official visits, by the way. He's actually on these teams or enrolled in these schools. So there's got to be a waiver signed, obviously, for him to be able to play this year. If they get that waiver signed, and I got 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brakes. Kids, don't drive like that, except when you're talking about Eric Gilbert. All the potential in the world here. 6'5", 275, came out that same class as Darnell Washington. Both of them were like alien, monster-looking tight ends. And Washington's already come through and done his thing at Georgia. Eric Gilbert is still in college, and there's hope. There's hope out in Lincoln through early portions of summer workout and now fall camp. There's hope. A lot of people are impressed by him. It's hard not to be. Sustain it through fall camp. Get your waiver signed, and you could have an unexpected playmaker there. Also, I know I've talked about Jeff Sims a little bit, and nothing happened out there since the last time we spoke about him. I just want to reiterate, Matt Rule thinks extremely highly of Jeff Sims. I could have actually pulled a clip for you. You can go look at our interview with Matt Rule from last week at Big Ten Media Days, and he's been very effusive in his praise and just adamant that he thinks Sims can be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and never really fulfilled on that potential at Georgia Tech for whatever reason. He's got a shot here, though. He's got a shot to really, really surprise a lot of people because no one's got Jeff Sims on their preseason top 10 board for quarterback. And yet Matt Rule just not even smiling, not beating around the bush, just flat out has said many times, yeah, I think he can be one of the best in the country this year. I want to talk about Notre Dame for a second, too. So Riley Mills is moving from defensive end to defensive tackle for them, and it's a really important move for them to fortify the interior of their defensive line, put on the weight. A lot of folks around the Irish program think he could be a breakout player this year, but it's the wide receivers that I think will get the most attention, and rightfully so. Jaden Greathouse, 4-star kid, true freshman. Rico Flores Jr., 4-star kid, true freshman. There's no qualifier here. If Notre Dame is to win 9 or more games this year, one or both of them have to have breakout years. They have to be dependable. They have to not be hurt, not inconsistent. And I know it's asking a lot, the true freshmen, but they've known, and that staff has known since they got on campus, they're going to have critical plays made from that true freshman wide receiver group. And they've been working with the ones so far, albeit very early in fall camp. Does it not feel good to just start rattling off some intel, some scoop? Now listen, that is only through like 1 or 2 days of workouts for most of these schools. They haven't even put on pads yet, but soon they will.